In this video, I just had some brief kind of conversation that I recently had with my niece that I wanted to share here. Maybe it'll be helpful for someone who comes across this video. But the conversation that I had with my niece, who is entering her first year in college, woohoo, you know, shout out to her. I'm talking about like my niece that like the day she was born. I mean, I wasn't there when she came out, but I came to the hospital after she was born. I held her. I've gone to like school birthdays and like all of the things that you do with a niece, all of the things that I was grateful enough to be a part of. College is just another step, you know, in that road to her becoming a woman. She's a young woman now. And so just exciting things. But I had a conversation with her and I would really referenced a poem that I had read when I was in high school, I think it was. Like early on in high school, probably like ninth grade. And it is called The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. And I think that poem came out in like 1916. And I still remember my teacher, Miss Williams, shout out to Miss Williams. I still remember her giving us the poem. I remember reading the poem, and the visual that went along with the poem was like, it was basically like, I think it was like woods and a road, and it was like one side of the road branched off here and then the other one here, and most of the people you saw walking this way, but you saw one person walking to the left, which is why it was called The Road Not Taken. But I actually pulled the poem up. One of the lines that really stood out to me was, "I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." I literally still remember the moment I read that, the moment I, was able to understand what Robert Frost was saying. And for me, what I was getting from him was that, of course, there goes my ring. For me, I was getting that, that you can't always go where everyone else is going. That there has to be a time in your life where you decide that I'm going the opposite direction, even though going this direction is the most popular. And personally, like honestly, I've always felt like, the most popular people, weren't the most smartest, they weren't the brightest people. And I've always wanted to just be aligned with people who were smarter than myself, And so the advice I had given to my niece was similar to that, was when everybody else go right, go left. In everything that you do, when they go right, go left. You cannot follow the crowd, And so really just, one of the intentions that I've had with my nieces and my nephews really has been to kind of like always encourage them to be different, to like, go over here. Like, you don't got to be grouped up with people all the time doing what everybody else does, because that's what everybody else wants to do. It's important to be of your own mind, to be in your own mind, to have your own thoughts and to act out on those thoughts. And for me, that's also been something that I have practiced in my career. Professionally, I always felt like, everybody was taking a certain path, especially going into marketing. I felt like everybody was jumping on the whole like social media wave. I had been working in social media when organic was all that was happening. And then when I started seeing that people started looking at social media as like, oh, this is the new wave, because just because you know how to do social media doesn't mean you know how to actually like market. Social media use is not synonymous with being a marketer. And so I saw those wires being crossed early on. And so I wanted to differentiate myself. And so I started jumping around within marketing. I started doing different kind of roles mostly strategic, but also too, of course, I've done social strategy. Of course, I've done product launches, and just kind of making sure that I was putting my foot in different industries to give myself the versatility that I knew that I would need as we were going into this new world. And so that has been my advice to my nieces and my nephews, is to make sure that you are separating yourself from the crowd. Make sure that you aren't looking like a cookie cutter of what everybody else is looking like or doing what everybody else is doing. Because then when it comes to figuring out, this person went to this school and y'all have, similar qualifications, how do somebody decide you over someone else? For me, my leverage was always that I was somebody that just worked in all of these different, industries within marketing. So, it was clear that whether I was marketing a cell phone or whether I was marketing computers or whether I was marketing a chair that I'm sitting in, that I was capable and qualified of being a strategic marketer across the board. And so I think that we just have to be mindful of that, mindful of those kind of thought processes when we are moving through the world, when we are making the decisions that we make. It is okay to be separate from the group. The group doesn't know everything, and you don't know everything either. And so if you are grouping yourself with the people who all think alike, all look alike, all do all of the same things alike, you really are putting yourself in a bad position, almost like pigeonholing yourself. I think another thing that we really don't talk enough about with our young people is how society will systematically make you feel like you're an outcast because you're not doing what the masses are doing. Society will make you feel like you don't belong, like like, who are you? Everybody else is doing this, and what are you doing? Let me tell you something. It's so bad for me that I remember one time I was in an airport, and I remember it was like a long line, but then it was like another open line, but like nobody was going in the second line. And like, so for me, I was kind of like looking like, is the line open? And I could see the thought process on other people's, mind as well, like as they were coming, like looking at the line, but they figured because everybody else was just getting in this line, that certainly couldn't have been a line. So everybody just would get in a line, just get in a line. And so as I was walking up, I just kind of went over to the empty line. And sure enough, it was a open line that could be used. And I walked through, and that also too was just like this reminder to me, is that like most people are looking to see what everyone else is doing and to fit in how everyone else is fitting in based off of what everyone else is kind of like, how everyone is operating. And so for me, it was just like, nah, I'm not like, let me test this line out, because I think just being a follower has to be ingrained in you. You literally just have to be like a follower. It's so funny because I think, dang it, who was it? It was Erykah Badu, if I'm not mistaken. I'll find a clip and put it in here. But Erykah Badu said something about like she gave a percentage of how many people in the world like are looking to be led, are like followers. And I believe this to be true. I think it's more people than what we know, more people than we expect. And I think I said this in a previous video, how the panty really showed me how unwilling people were, especially given a situation where there's a lot of confusion, how unwilling people were to buck against the system, to ask questions, and instead more people would go along to get along. So I'll definitely put the video, I think it was Erykah Badu. If not, I'll like correct it, but I think it was Erykah Badu who basically gave that, like a statistic. Not sure what the validity of the statistic is. If you are so inclined to, please feel free to do your homework about it. But nonetheless, I feel it to be a true thing, is that most of the people are looking for someone to lead them. And so for me, I try to always make sure with my nieces and nephews, I'm asserting to them like the importance of being the leader, if anything. Certainly we all have to be a follower in many situations. I am not above being a follower. I follow people at work all the time. I just had a call yesterday with one of my colleagues, and I basically was saying like, listen, if something isn't right or if something isn't, please, like I'm please raise a red flag with me. Like, this is not my whole world. Work is. It's not my whole life. It's not the crux of who I am, you know? And so for me, my position has always been, if I can learn from you, be it the intern, she's not an intern, she's management, but you be it the intern, coordinator, you know, manager, senior manager, director, whomever it is, I'm open to learning. That's one thing about me, because the reality is if I ever leave an organization, I take that skill set with me. I don't got to like give that back and then walk away. I take that skill set with me. So it's personal to me, really learning is very personal to me. And so I prioritize that in every situation that I'm in. But as far as just living my life, I don't live my life as a follower. I live my life as someone who is a critical thinker, who push back, you know, who have bucked back, you know, always my whole life. And so I really want to have nieces and nephews who also are like that, because I got to tell you, I was saying this to my friend Daria the other day, like, quite honestly, I don't know if a children is a story in my life. You know what I mean? Like, the numbers are not numbering. Like, also too, like, I'm one of those people, like, because I'm like very much like about budget and like, you know, I like want to know like how I'm going to squeeze this line item. Like a kid is a line item. Like, how I'm going to squeeze that line item is like not magic, you know? And so for me, I've not been able to make the numbers make sense right now. Maybe at a later date, my mind might be changed. That's the great thing about being an adult, especially being a grown man, is that I can change my mind based off of new information. And so right now, I don't have that information or those extra resources. So I've made the decision as of right now, as of today, that is not something that I'm going to explore. We'll see how life changes, but how did I get off on that? But nonetheless, you know what I mean? Like, always been a leader. I think it's so important to make sure that the young people that we are surrounded, that we are encouraging them to push back, to ask questions, to question everything and to question everybody until they get a satisfactory response. And yeah, that is my story. I'm sticking to it. That is what I wanted to ramble about with you today. I actually prefer these rambling times. Let me tell you something. I'm making cabbage. So I'm making steak burgers, cabbage, and I'm in between rice or like a mashed potato or something. But so anyway, I'm doing that, and I figured I would hop on and have this conversation because I just got off the call with my niece and just, you know, kind of going through, you know, her college experience and already meeting people and how to navigate those relationships and, you know, all of those things. And so I figured that I would come on here and share that with you as well. So hopefully this was helpful to somebody. If not, feel free to share it to someone that it might be helpful for, you know. Always appreciate the support and looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.
Philosophy that says 85% of the people on the planet are followers. 10% of the people on the planet are creators or leaders, and 5% of the people are observers. So when you got 85% of the people who are willing to follow, the 10% who are able to create something are going to capitalize off of that, and the 5% are usually the ones who are assassinated or shunned or discredited because they can see everything that's going on. And they would ruin it all for the 10%. So the reason why it's so easy to do that is because people are willing to be led.